There's a specific kind of madness that sets in when you play No Man's Sky for too long. It's the realization that you are sitting in a room looking at a screen pretending to be an astronaut in a universe that is 18 quintillion times larger than you are. It's a game designed to make you feel small. Most people cope by staying near the galactic core, near hubs, near civilization. But some people go the other way. They fly out into the deep black, past the point where the procedural generation gets weird and stars stop rendering. I've been tracking rumors of a ghost out in the void between Galaxy 255 and the hard edge of the simulation. A player who went out there 3 years ago and never came back. I thought it was just a community creepypasta. I'm an expert at this point and I can distinguish between real and fake. And this one felt like another internet campfire story until yesterday. When I warped into that empty dead sector, my ship's comms panel lit up. As you'd expect, it would be an NPC, but this one wasn't. It was a player-built communication station floating in absolute nothingness, thousands of light years from the nearest planet. I got close enough to interact with it, but it didn't have a text message. It was just humming, a low rhythmic audio interference that repeated exactly every 7 seconds, like someone's breathing very rhythmic into a microphone. I sat in my cockpit for a long time, just hovering next to it, that tiny metal sphere, listening to the loop. 7 seconds of low frequency hum, 7 seconds of silence. Repeat. It didn't sound like a glitched sound effect. I know No Man's Sky's audio is usually crisp, synthetic sci-fi noises, and it's almost perfect. This one sounded dirty, analog, like someone's breathing into a cheap gaming microphone. I tried interacting with the comm station again. Usually a text box pops up with a player message, like greeting from Hop 4 or whatever. But this one just kept giving me an error message. Error. Data corruption. But the sound kept playing. I do have some experience with ARGs, and one of the oldest tricks in the book is hiding data in audio. I tapped out of the game and opened up Audition on my computer. I routed the game audio into it and recorded it. I let it run for 10 full cycles of the breathing sound. When I played it back, it just sounded like static. But then I had this brilliant idea. I switched the view from waveform to spectrogram. This basically visualizes sound frequencies. Usually it just looks like colorful noise, but not this time. In extreme high frequencies, those sounds that are too high for the human ear to actually hear, the spectrogram wasn't random chaos. It was actually structured. There were distinct vertical blocks of sound cutting through the static. Thin line, thick line, thin line. This looked unnatural. I looked at it for a bit, and you know what? This looks like a barcode. Someone carved a barcode into this audio file. Someone had used this to hide a visual message inside the audio track of an in-game object. This is a tough trick. At this point, my hands were actually sweating a little. This wasn't a role player messing around. This was effort. I spent the next hour manually transcribing the pattern. I treated the thin lines as 0 and thick lines as 1. When I was done, I didn't have a message. I just had raw data. 64 bits of binary code staring back at me from my notepad. It was meaningless on its own, but in the context of this game, I knew it meant something. I kept staring at my notepad file on my second monitor. 64 ones and zeros. This felt heavy, like I was holding a literal piece of a ghost story. I opened a standard binary to text converter in my browser and pasted the sequence in. I honestly felt like I was off and it would just be gibberish. Or maybe a cheesy "don't look behind you" message meant to scare role players. But it wasn't. It outputted a very specific string of 12 characters. 10010 300500 7. I don't play No Man's Sky a lot, and if you don't play No Man's Sky religiously, that might just look like a random serial number. But if you are deep into this game, you recognize that format instantly. It's a portal address. In the game, you can punch 12 glyphs into an ancient portal structure, and it will instantly transport you to any planet in the galaxy. It's how players share cool ship locations or meet up, but there was a massive problem with this specific one. You see, standard portal glyphs correspond to hexadecimal code, a mix of numbers and letters, A through F. This code was only numbers. It was too clean, too mathematical. I pulled up a third-party galactic atlas a website player used to map coordinates and plugged the sequence in. I wanted to see where this ghost was trying to send me. The site popped up a big red error message. Region ID invalid. Coordinate out of bounds. According to the game's own logic, this location didn't exist. The map didn't add up to a physical place in the universe. I sat back at my chair, looking at my ship floating in the absolute blackness of the void. The humming of that conversation is still looping in my headset. Was I wrong? Was this all just gibberish? A distress signal gives you a location. This one just gave me a riddle. But the conversation wasn't the end of the road. I sat there for a long time just staring at that error message. Coordinate out of bounds. In most games, out of bounds means you hit this invisible wall or fell through the floor. In a procedurally generated universe like No Man's Sky, it's more complicated. The game uses an algorithm to generate planets based on coordinates. If the coordinate is invalid, the math fails and nothing gets generated. It's just null space. So why would someone hide a message that points to nothing? I went back to the binary code. I checked my transcription from the spectrogram. I checked the conversion. Everything was correct. The message was intentional. I decided to stop thinking like a player and start thinking like a developer. The game's universe is a massive 3D grid. Coordinates are just x, y, and z values. I opened up the coordinate calculator again. I looked at those numbers again. 1001030050007. It looked almost too symmetrical, like it was designed to look simple. And then it hit me. Maybe this isn't a literal address. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a difference. I looked at my current location in the void, the exact spot where I found the humming conversation. I pulled up my ship's dashboard and wrote down my own coordinates. Then I took the ghost's impossible coordinate. At first, I tried adding these numbers to my current location. Still nothing. But I'm pretty sure when I was at elementary school, they also taught me to subtract numbers from each other. So I did just that. The result was a new set of coordinates. Not an impossible one this time. This one was very real. I was so excited. I plugged that new address into a Galactic Atlas website. The map zoomed out, away from the void, back into the populated galaxy. It pinpointed a single system. It wasn't a special system. It had a generic name, a boring yellow sun, and 3 planets. It was unremarkable in every single way. The kind of system you'd warp through 1,000 times and never stop in. But as I looked at the system data on the website, a piece of user submitted information from 3 years ago popped up. System status abandoned. First discovered by corrupted. Someone had been there, and whatever they did, the game's database couldn't even render their name correctly anymore. So I fired up my ship's hyperdrive. The comp station was still humming its rhythmic breathe behind me as I punched in the coordinates and warped away from the void, towards a system that the universe was trying to forget. The warp jump took longer than usual. Maybe it was just my nerves, but the loading tunnel of colorful light felt endless. When I finally dropped out of hyperspace, my ship's computer screamed a warning. A Extreme Sentinel Planet detected. Hazard protection failing. I wasn't just at the coordinates, it was directly about the target planet. It was an ugly rock. A dead, airless planet with a sickly atmosphere that my scanner couldn't penetrate. The surface was just a mess of jagged grey mountains. No flora, just rock and aggressive sentinel drones. It was the exact opposite of the vibrant, beautiful worlds players usually seek out. This was a place you'd only come to if you were trying to hide. I was starting to think I'd made a mistake. Maybe the coordinate subtraction was wrong. Maybe this was just another empty rock. And then I saw it. A small purple icon popped up on my HUD entering your building. But this wasn't my building, I never built that. It was a player base, a tiny 2x2 wooden shack built on a rock. There were no landing pads, no power generators, no lights, just simple wooden box sitting in the dark. I walked towards the shack. As I got to the door, I saw it. It wasn't humming this time, it was blinking. This isn't a game mechanics. Communication stations don't blink, but this one was. I stood outside that door for a long minute. The sentinel drones were buzzing somewhere over the ridge, but they ignored me. It felt like even the game's security system didn't want to come near this place. I interacted with the blinking conversation first. The text popped up immediately. No audio this time, just 3 short sentences. I found the edge. It was just a mirror. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a clue, just 2 sentences. I opened the door to the shack and stepped inside. The base was completely unpowered. The only light came from my suit's torch, cutting a narrow beam through the darkness. The room was empty, just 4 wooden walls, except for one thing. In one corner of the room, facing a black wall, was a single chair. A simple chair. I walked around it. It was just a chair. And then I saw what the chair was facing. Someone had put a sticker on the wall. It was a spiral, but something about it was off. I went back to the chair and sat in it. From that perspective, the sticker filled my entire view. I imagined the player who built this, sitting here in the dark, on a dead planet, thousands of light years from anyone, just staring at this maze on the wall. They had gone out into the infinite void, looking for something new, something the algorithm hadn't predicted. And when they found nothing, they came here and built a tiny room to stare at a puzzle that had no solution. I found the edge. It was just a mirror. I got up and walked back outside. The fog seemed thicker now. I then realized that the message on the comm station wasn't metaphorical. He wasn't talking about the edge of this galaxy. He was talking about the edge of his own mind. He went out there to escape, but all he found in the silence was a reflection of the emptiness he brought with him. I was about to leave. Honestly, I was really tired. I tried to get back on my ship and get the hell out of this rock. Then I noticed something else about the comm station by the door. It wasn't just blinking. It was broadcasting something. A signal. A faint, encrypted data being sent out. Not into the space, but directly down into the ground beneath my feet. A signal pointing down on a dead planet. I didn't have a choice. I wanted to leave, but you don't come this far just to stare at the floor. I pulled out my terrain manipulator. I pointed it at the dirt floor right next to the blinking comm station and pulled the trigger. The corridor felt like it was miles long, but it was probably only 50 feet.
The air down here was thick, heavy, and tasted metallic even through my suit's filters. I walked to the terminal at the end.
The screen was flickering with scan lights.
It was just
Waiting. I placed my hand on the console. The interface hummed to life. User detected. Initiating playback. It didn't give me a choice. It just started playing. It wasn't text, it was audio. For the first few seconds, it was just that sound again. The low rhythmic breathing I'd heard out in the void. Then, a voice cut through it. It was cracked and dry.
Room 1492. I've stopped trying to leave. The math doesn't work. The procedural generation, it's not creating new worlds, it's just rearranging the same pieces over and over. A different color sky, a different shaped rock, but it's all the same dust. I thought if I went far enough, I'd find the sea. The place where the code ends and the real universe begins. But there is no sea. It's just a loop. A stupid strip of data. I built it above to remind myself, but I need to see it. I need to see this loop. It's all in a processor.